a lot of opportunities when I was young. And that has instilled in me a real desire to give back.
Yeah.
And that has remained a really important part right the way through, right to today.
In this episode of The Little Black Book, we're joined by Kate Hannemann, CEO and owner of Communikate et al. Established in 1995, Communikate is a national integrated marketing communications agency. Combining strategic thinking with creativity, it builds and protects the reputations of their organisations to help them succeed. In this episode, Kate talks about the importance of knowing your why in all your personal and strategic business decision making. She talks about how a trip to the Netherlands as a young professional with Rotary helped create a sense of community and a desire to volunteer and give back to others. She talks about the importance of values and culture as a platform to manage her team and develop trust within her team. The importance of investing in learning, investing in yourself, investing in advisors, and investing in your team to help grow, survive and thrive. And about trusting your team to explore new ideas and create opportunities for themselves, for your business and for your clients. Welcome to The Little Black Book, a podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs who provide their first-hand experiences to help others learn and grow. This podcast is brought to you by Altitude Advisory. Altitude Advisory is a modern business advisory firm helping business owners build a better business for a better life. Favourite movie of all time?
Les Miserables.
Okay, tell me more.
Passion, commitment in adversity.
Yeah. Cool.
And the music.
Yeah.
I love the arts, so it's that combination of a great story and musical theatre.
Yeah, okay. So musical theatre and arts is something, is that something that's been through your family forever since you were a kid, or is this something that you've grown into?
Something that I enjoyed as a kid and went through from sort of later primary, dabbled in it in high school and at university, and is the reason that when I came out of uni, other than a short stint working in a consultancy, I worked in marketing departments in the arts.
Yeah, okay. Well, that probably makes sense. The creative thought as opposed to the logical thought. So that's cool. What about a book as a child or a young adult that has had a real effect on you, and why?
Perhaps the young adult book is the one that stands out if we're thinking from a business perspective. So I was freelancing at 23 and then started Communikate at 24 years old. So for me, the E-Myth, Michael Gerber, was transformational in terms of that. Have you bought yourself a job? Or, are you planning on building a business and working on that business? So that's the one that stands out for me. And also the learning from that around do what you love, and what you don't love, there's probably someone else that loves doing it, and not getting tied into trying to be an expert at all things. Yeah.
I mean, the E-Myth, I think it's almost a compulsory read for anybody that's thinking about going in business or has even been in business for a while, that maybe has drifted off on a tangent or on a path that they're not quite sure of. So many good lessons in that. Tell me about this. You just said about do what you love. What is it about what you do that you love? What brings you back every day to Communikate? It's
a number of things. The early driver, and it remains the same today, is that variety. The consulting environment brings about that variety. That was certainly a love. I love collaborating. So working with a team of people to collectively create something is another key driver. And the creative process of creating a business and the evolution of that business and the blue sky thinking that goes with that.
I suppose in the creative marketing space, there's no real boundaries about where you can take anything. So the only boundaries you've got really are the boundaries that you put around yourself.
Correct, and naturally a client's situation being relevant remains really important to us. So there is naturally always a constraint around a client's particular problem or opportunity and the investment that they can make. But within that, that often brings about some of the best ideas and developments.
Yeah, cool. Has there been any travel experience or anything that's been really influential on you, Kate, in your career or business life?
Look, my experience with travel has been that every travel experience, there is always transformational in some way, insofar as, be it emotionally, spiritually, physically, what you see and so on. But from a highlight perspective, there are a couple of early travel experiences that I feel stand out. One was 5 weeks I spent in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And this was part of a group of 5 professionals. We were awarded the opportunity to go to the Netherlands and typical of those Rotary situations, you're not only immersed in the home of a Rotarian, you're also getting to meet their business contacts.
Yeah.
And so by virtue of the size of the Netherlands, we travelled across most of the Netherlands doing that.
Yeah.
And equally representing Australia was a fantastic thing to do as well. Another standout was later in my 20s, through the Foundation for Young Australians. I was successful in doing an in-residence leadership 1 week with young leaders from around the country, and we came together for that week and had the benefit of some amazing leaders of the 1990s.
Yeah.
Be it Noel Pearson, the Indigenous leader, and Tim Costello with his NGO experience. And that at that time was very influential.
Yeah, okay. What were some of the things that you took out of that? Because I can imagine, having a week with people like that.
Yeah.
I guess with your peers, the up and comers, if you like. What are some of the key things that you've taken with you?
Naturally, the inspiration was there, and as you say, just feeling like there were other, albeit different, leaders.
Yeah.
But there is that like-minded.
Yeah.
Even though some, might have been doing completely different things to what I was doing, and they were. And that sense of community. This was a community organisation that had offered us this opportunity and had put this program together.
Yeah.
So it was terrific. And we kept in contact for a period of time, particularly those locally. Yeah, it was terrific. It was really good, and probably was part of my then moving into peer business groups, which for me was started with the SA Young Entrepreneurs Scheme, and then, went through to the group business coaching program, into tech, the Executive Connection, and now for the last best part of a decade, EO.
Yeah. In
terms of being with like-minded people in leadership or in business, and having that opportunity to share and to get new ideas and new perspectives, and to provide a balance with what you do from industry point of view and your own business with that leadership in business. So I think that probably became part of that springboard subconsciously.
It's interesting that you've been doing that from such a young business age, in your early 20s, and it's something that you've carried through for your 25 years in business, that you're still doing it. Aside from the relationships, what are some of the key things that you continue to get out of these frameworks or forums or whatever it is that keeps you coming back and keeps you engaged year after year?
Learning.
Yeah.
I mean, I genuinely have a love of learning, expanding my mind.
Yeah.
So, yes, through those programs, there's the kind of more official learning, different speakers on different things, but as valuable is the learning that you get from the experience sharing among peers, and learning from others' experiences, I find, is incredibly powerful. It can be just one, small thing, or it can be a major thing. And the feeling of support, no doubt, from early on, there was a feeling of being on my own.
Yeah.
Communikate started as me, and then built a team around me over time, that was always important to make sure that there was that balance, and also that things didn't remain stagnant.
Yeah, cool. Has there been any particular platform or group? You mentioned young entrepreneurs and tech and EO, and has there been any particular one that you've found that has worked best for you, and perhaps some other experience that may not have worked so well?
Yeah. The reason that I've been in EO the longest is probably because that has been the forum that has worked best for me, and I think it's because the sharing is not just about business; it's about your whole of life. Yeah, and as a mum of 2 young kids, and life and community also being an important part of my life as much as business, being in an environment where all of that is seen as part of what we're sharing, and supporting each other on, and that everyone is prepared to share those experiences. And also because EO is about only experience sharing, it's not about giving advice, which is a vast contrast to obviously the day job, so to speak, in terms of being a consultant, but is a really refreshing way of connecting with a network that feels much more authentic than perhaps other situations where it doesn't feel quite as authentic.
And I suppose from an experience share perspective, you can choose what to take or what not to take.
Absolutely.
Equally out of somebody else's experience. Yeah, cool. I just want to perhaps go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here. I mean, I'm really intrigued by this, this Rotary Exchange and the opportunity to go and do this young leaders thing when you were younger, and you just touched on community and community service. You're involved in a number of not-for-profit boards and other activities and other volunteer service. How important do you think that original opportunity with Rotary has sort of then created a need for you to want to give back or to serve?
Absolutely. I was given a lot of opportunities when I was young, and that has instilled in me a real desire to give back. And that has remained a really important part right the way through, right to today. And it's that giving back. It's about the fact that what I can offer into community from a skills set and perspective does add value and can have an impact, and I find that really rewarding. And it feeds my soul, and I learn a lot too. I've been able to develop my leadership skills through various, be it community boards.
Is that one of the key pillars then for communicate the business, this sense of giving back or community and so forth? Is that one of your key foundation pillars?
Yes. Early on, what that looked like for Communicate was essentially giving back to the arts, because typically a lot of the arts organisations and artists that we worked with for the best part of that first 10 years couldn't afford to effectively use us as a business would. So we did a lot in that space and continue to today to support Windmill Theatre Company. But what we then have started to do in more recent times is balance that with other community. And so, at Communicate, we've got a program called Communicate, which we use to not only invest in the community, but to also engage our staff and allow them to have a big say on how we're going to support the community.
Yeah, tell us more about Communicate. How does it work? How do you engage the team? What type of stuff are you doing with it?
Yeah, so as an example, last year we, on the back of the bushfires that had occurred, we wanted to ensure that we were going to be supporting be it Kangaroo Island or Adelaide Hills communities. We all grew seeds as part of then when you can go and do your tree planting, which unfortunately due to COVID we couldn't do as successfully as we'd hoped, but we at least all grew the trees, donated them back, and a couple of the staff were able to go and do the planting, which was great.
Yeah.
We also registered our business to provide support to a business that had been affected.
Yeah, okay.
And we were married up with Jack at Bike About.
Yeah.
Two of our team members were then given a career opportunity as well to work together on a marketing plan and new brand for Jack, which was essentially allowed him to, from a marketing point of view, get back on his feet and have a better profile.
Yeah, cool.
So blood donations occur periodically that some of the team do. They're just some examples.
Yeah, cool. And do you find it easy to get the team engaged with it?
Very easy, yeah.
Last year was 25 years in business, so you've been in business longer than, more than half your life now. A lot of businesses don't, we've seen the data, don't survive past 12 months, 2 years, 5 years. What's some of the secrets or some of the things that you've done to get to 25 years? Because it's a huge milestone.
Yeah, look, I feel as though there's a number of factors at play in that melting pot. One of them is the commitment to continuous improvement and evolution. Yeah. Be it by services, we started out as marketing communications. Now we offer more than that. Yeah. But also in how we do things, just constant, continuous improvement to make sure that we remain relevant and the best that we can be. Yeah. Values and culture have been really crucial, and a strong leadership team. Those two things start to come hand in hand. So we've been able to retain our team for many years, and therefore right across the team have people who have been with Communikate for a long time. Yeah, okay. And the values-driven culture allows for us to be different but equally aligned. Yeah. And as the business has evolved to being more than me, it's allowed there to still be that consistency in what we do, not just internally, but also how we deal with our clients, how we deal with our suppliers and so on. Transparency of information. I've always been very transparent with the business side, more transparent from my understanding of other businesses, even right down to the financials. So that piece has always been there. Offering early career opportunities for people. There's quite a number of the team that continue to be there due to being part of our work experience volunteer program, which we've had in place for over a decade. And even if they don't immediately work with us, often loop back. Team members quite regularly loop back if they go on to other opportunities and then come back. But authenticity and trust and respect, being focused on that with how we do things. And obviously the mentoring and forum situation that I referred to earlier is key to that too. And the love of learning, I feel like, is another part to that too. Yeah.
Tell me more about your values and culture, and I'm really interested in this sharing of information, because I deal with a lot of business owners, and some are saying, well, I'm not going to tell some of my team how much we billed last month or what our fees are, because they're just going to come and hit me up for a pay rise. So I'm sure with the sharing of that information comes a huge amount of trust that you've got in your team to be able to do that. So. Was this just a leap of faith, or how did you get to the point where you were comfortable doing it?
It probably originated from the fact that I would remember that I would always perform best if I was given scope. Yeah. And that I really wanted to Communikate to be a place where you feel that you could have an influence and that you could potentially fast track your career. Yeah. We'd be there as the safety net with quality control and mentoring and so on that sits around that, of course, but that you get the best out of people if you allow them to grow. Yeah. So that piece is probably then what brings about that trust. Yeah. And as from a leadership point of view, I feel that if you show trust, you will get that back.
Yeah, cool.
And as a result, that too to get the best out of people from a management and leadership point of view, they need to see the numbers. They need to understand the challenges.
Yeah.
And as well as the what's working and what's not working.
Yeah. Well, the numbers and the what's not working and things like that, they're effectively outcomes. And I suppose that in that framework of trust and letting team members to go and explore and be creative and find things that, you give them that authority or that autonomy, but also there's an understanding that there's consequences with that too. And there's an accountability that comes back, well, yeah, go and play, but there's a consequence to that action which you need to be mindful of as well. Yeah.
And the theme with the team is that they feel a real sense of commitment and ownership to communicate. They treat it as their own.
Yeah. And I suppose then as a business owner, that gives you, I suppose, a whole lot more flexibility to be able to take time off or go away and things like that and not worry about what's happening when you're not looking.
Absolutely. And that was very much why I put the values in place. I was pregnant with Jay, who's now about to turn 16.
Yeah.
So I needed to absolutely ensure that the right things were put in place so that people feel that they could do that.
Yeah.
Naturally, there's been different reasons, be it, then Stella came along and then just by virtue of the size of the business, there wasn't a desire to continue to be right down in the detail all the time.
Yeah.
Because I knew that not only would that not be useful for the team members, but also that it wasn't going to be sustainable from a client point of view either.
Yeah.
So.
How do your values and culture then come into play from a team management perspective or a performance management perspective? Because I'm sure, like most business owners, you've probably recruited somebody at some point in time that that didn't necessarily fit the values that might have appeared. But how's that worked in terms of then performance management and the team and things like that?
Yeah. Look, part of it is that it is prevalent in the business, and therefore typically if someone arrives and they're not of those values, they would feel like they didn't fit in or the decisions didn't make sense and so on. More formally, yes, it is part of when we sit down for a annual review, it is a whole section. Yeah. And demonstrating those values is as important as the capability of the person.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. And I think it's such an important and understated thing, or foundation pillar of business is those values and culture to be able to effectively build and leverage. And only then can you start to trust people like you do to be able to do that. So you can get back to the E-Myth framework. Well, are you building yourself are you created a job for yourself, or are you building a business that can be scaled? And that's a critical part of it. Cool. You've been through a number of challenges with the business over your 25 years. We've seen markets shift. We've seen COVID. We've seen global financial crisis. We've seen all sorts of things. We've seen, I'm sure you've got experiences with your client base where they've gone through major issues or brand or reputational issues. How have you managed through those challenges, and how have you managed to make sure that communikate stayed relevant and valuable in all those things?
Well, I think it's the good communication. Yeah. It seems really fundamental, but really keeping the communication with staff and with clients at each step, being financially conservative. Yeah. Perhaps at times too conservative, but again, just not wanting that to get in the way of clear thinking. Yeah. Flexibility and increasingly so as the years and move on. Yeah. And the speed of change broadly in the market changes. Being responsive, as you say, and surrounding ourselves with good advisors, knowing what we do know and getting support where we don't know, and not being prepared and being prepared to pay for that, not shying away from it.
Yeah.
Really backing that team continuity investment piece, keeping coaching in the business at the forefront.
I think that's a really interesting point. There's a lot of times, and you would have seen it from a client perspective, when things get difficult or challenging, saying, okay, well, what can we cut? Where can we save some money? What can we do here? And one of my old business coaches said, well, you can't cut your way to success. And I'm really interested to maybe explore a bit more just this. And you use the word investing in yourself, treating you as advisors and investment in your business, investing in your team, in learning, things like that. How do you measure? Because, with any investment, there's got to be a return. So how do you measure the return on that?
In broad terms, I think it sits around the sustainability of the business, retention of the team, retention of clients. We're always been interested in less clients, deeper relationships, more impact than a burn and churn through clients.
Yeah. What are some of the obstacles that you've had to face in your business career?
There's been times from a financial perspective that becomes a standout quite naturally. And I think also the whole of life balance continues to always be a challenge. And part of that can be my own doing. I am a lover of opportunities. And saying no can be a challenge.
How do you work through those all those opportunities? One of my buddies once said to me, and I've sort of adopted this a bit, everything you say yes to, you're saying no to something else. How do you keep that balance? Because, you mentioned before the kids, your husband's in business as well. You've got a thriving business here, which keeps you involved. Plus, all you've obviously, how do you keep it measured?
Constant work in progress, that one. But being better at saying no is something that, particularly over the last 5 years, as family has become more and more predominant. Part of my life. The other part that I found really useful too, that helped me in saying no, was finding your why.
Oh, yeah.
Which, on reading that and applying it, which resonated with me because it was about your personal values and getting back to those, and that becoming a filter, for want of a better word, for opportunities. And most particularly when it comes to community, as you say, community opportunities and where I might choose to spend my time. So that things like that have been helpful, and less is more. But I'm still working on that. I wouldn't say that I've No, I think it's a challenge for everybody. And, people talk about, work-life balance. I don't think there's such thing. It's just life balance. It is. And it's not an ultimate destination, as someone said to me. It is a constant work in progress. And it always will be, I think, because I do like a variety of things happening. But also want to ensure that headspace doesn't get too cluttered.
Typical entrepreneur. Do you suffer from magpie syndrome where, a new shiny thing over here that you want to go and chase all the time?
Yes.
How do you have a framework to keep you not distracted?
Well, I think the anchoring of family right now becomes really useful in that.
Yeah, cool. Just want to touch a bit on, you mentioned Simon Sinek there, the why, and he's been or become one of the really, I think, pivotal thought leaders or consultant, whatever you want to describe him as, of modern business history, if you like. Tell me, how did you come across that? Where did you see it? Is it something that you push back through with all your team and your clients? I mean, how important is that, I'll call it, pillar becoming for you and for the business?
Yeah, in more recent times for me, and it was introduced to me because fellow members in EO were talking about it, were sharing elements that resonated with me, and it was at the time when I was wanting to sort of scale things back a little bit.
Yeah.
So that has been really the influence for me. There is probably subconsciously has been also reaffirming in some of the areas of the business.
Yeah.
Certainly reaffirming around having our values and which was good. And I feel, particularly from a governance point of view, when you're sitting around a table, that it is that sort of information I think becomes really useful.
Yeah. Have you been able to take some of your learnings out of that to, that community work that we were talking about before, whether they be volunteer boards or whatever, and I'll say, circle it back, that purpose or that key mantra back through those areas as well and influence others?
Yeah, I do feel that perhaps the most current example is my work as the deputy and chair of the governing council at school.
Yeah.
Where it's been great to be working collaboratively with a professional leadership group at the school, but also with a group of really professional volunteers as well. And the idea that we all come from very different backgrounds, have very different skill sets, but we're, all there for the kids and wanting to ensure that we're able to make a difference in the school by creating and delivering things that wouldn't have normally happened because of the fact that there just isn't the bandwidth within day-to-day school operations. We've been able to create other things. And to hear from others from time to time that have felt that they have learnt by being in that board environment and, have gained from that as well. And that's rewarding too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Have you got some goals that you've set for yourself that you're yet to accomplish?
2 buckets on that. From a business point of view, I'd say true sustainability and smoothing out the financial roller coaster that agency life so often is, and building a community contribution would be good. From a personal point of view, no doubt travel, as would be on most people's list, particularly now what you can't have, you want even more. But for what it does for your mind, I think is really important. And as I've highlighted, obviously the family side of things, ensuring that they flourish as they're going into being young adults. And this is not an immediate thing at all, but I would love to do some sort of transformational project that sits around children and education. As I say, down the track when there is a bit more space, but I just see the importance of young people being motivated and inspired and engaged and something in that education space. I'm really impressed by what I see is happening, and I only think there could be more.
Cool. You mentioned the travel, and we've obviously been through that over the last 12 months. Is there anything particular on your bucket list that you want to go and do? No,
it's more about places to see that I haven't seen in reality. Japan would be one. There's parts of Europe I still haven't seen. Open to a lot.
Cool. Do you have a formal or an informal goal setting process that you go through personally every year or every 6 months or anything like that? Or is this something that just evolves and you think of something and you write it down and it becomes a target?
Yeah, look, it is, for me personally, it's probably more something that evolves.
Yeah.
In the business though and in EO, we have more structured goal setting, which is good for me because it continues to remind me about trying to be less is more. Yeah. Not trying to have too much on the list.
Yeah. And do you, being a creative thinker and coming out of that creative space and that art space that you described earlier, how do you go with structure? Because, a lot of business is about, disciplines and structures and some accountability and stuff like that. How do you go with that?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I like a level of structure.
Yeah.
A balance of structure and room to move.
Yeah.
And I feel that there does need to be structure in business.
Yeah.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a mentor?
At the moment, my mentors are the 20 or so people I have as entrepreneurs in two of my EO groups.
Yeah, okay.
So no central mentor, which in the past there has been a central mentor. But at the moment, that's how it is.
And I suppose with those relationships through EO, through Entrepreneurs Organisation, at any given point in time, your relationship's such that you can go and talk to any of those people and lean on them for help.
And they each have their own strengths and backgrounds and
So effectively,
wonderful.
You got 20 mentors and you could go pick the one that best suits the situation.
Pretty much.
A bit like having, a hair care product or a different, thing that you could pick off the shelf at the supermarket. Well, I'm just going to have that one today.
And even previous mentors I've had, I still keep in contact with. So, I've certainly always been an advocate for the external view and that they are people that are prepared to say it as it is.
Yeah,
that's what I value.
Excellent. Do you have a life motto?
Many. One that comes to mind is around, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Mindful of there is tough decisions that have to be made, be it in business or family, but sort of how you navigate those. There was another that crossed my mind earlier, but it's one that...
Yeah, cool. Excellent. Thank you, Kate. Thanks for joining us. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Catch up soon.
I'm Kate Hannemann, Managing Director and founder of Communikate et al. Thanks for joining us on The Little Black Book.